How's it going, everyone? Josie the Barber here, welcoming everybody back to On the Mic with Josie. I'm super excited to finally be recording episode 9, getting that much closer to the milestone episodes of episode 10 and beyond. For anybody who's already tuned into the show, welcome back. I truly appreciate your support. For anybody who's new to the show and this is the first one you've seen, welcome to the show. I really appreciate that you're here and that I even have the opportunity to do this. So with that said, I'd like to welcome in my next guest, which I'm super pumped up about, as I am of every fucking guest. But this one, man, have we had some dope-ass conversations, dope experiences in such a short time. My next guest I met 3 years ago in 2021 doing communications courses. The first time we ever met was through Zoom, because back then we were still doing things online and through Zoom. She's worked in the entertainment and fashion industry since the age of 17, particularly in the comedy community and industry since 2009. She created a pop-up comedy van in 2017, and she now also works in real estate for 3 years since 2021. I'd like to welcome one of the most dopest human beings that I know, Satarius Piernas.
Yes.
What up?
I just need to bring you with me everywhere I go to introduce me. So I can
Let's do it. Let's do it. I'll be the one just walking around behind you like, this is the introduction, right?
This is who she is.
This is who she is. Dude, it's funny you say that because watching I was just watching something recently. It had to have been Star Wars or something like that. Like, at least from the depictions that we get in, like, the movies, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's how it was back in the ancient times, based off the movies, right? Yeah. Like, somebody would walk in and, like, say this whole introduction about who this person was about to speak with, right? Like, and what's a trip about that for me is, like, at least what's coming up for me right now, being the communications courses things, like it's almost like, you know how they say, like, respect, like, you have to have respect for the king. You have to, like, it's almost like that person is responsible for creating the listening of the person, so that way, look at the moment I finish this introduction, now you know how to listen to the person you're about to speak to.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm
that's
telling
dope.
you, they was on to something back in the day.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of things.
They definitely wasn't on to a lot of stuff, but they were on to some stuff.
I mean, the whole, like, head through the whole blade coming down, head in the basket.
That was a thing.
That might have been a little rough, right? But the introduction shit, they had that down.
Yeah, they had that.
They had that down.
The whole dentistry, just like, it ain't gonna work out killer. But yeah.
Dude, right now you said the word dentistry, right? Like, what's a trip is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but barbers back in the days used to be also dentists and minor surgeons.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
Fuck, I couldn't. One thing that I'm, like, incredibly curious about to just know a little bit more is your pop-up comedy van.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's my baby. It's a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van.
Okay.
So get all of the church van ideas out of your head. Get all of the white vans with no windows images out of your head. No, it's a luxury van that I converted into a comedy club on the inside. So it is, I created it to be an intimate, hilarious experience where you can be up close and personal, comedian to audience. And when you close the door, you forget you're in a van. I love it. I've loved every moment of it.
And do you perform at every event you do in your van, or sometimes is it just other? How does that work? Like, how do you get comedians for it?
So far, I have hosted the show. Sometimes I've just been the only comedian on the show. It's just enough for me to pop up and do 30 minutes and then let those people out and do another 30 minutes. And, you know, so yeah, I get the comedians just out of my community from being a comic since 2009.
Wow. And so what I'm getting from what you're saying is sometimes you will have, like, multiple performers. Sometimes it'll just be you.
Yeah.
And so who gets this van? Why does someone get, like, how do these events look? Do you, like, I'm so curious about, like, the way this works. Because I mean, a pop-up comedy van is, I don't know. I like picturing what it looks like and how you go about getting booked or booking?
Yeah, it's totally bookable, right? Go to the website at popupcomedyshow.com. And you can book it for your events, for corporate, for Super Bowl parties. I also sometimes literally just pop up. Like I will just like pick a day and time and make some announcements and go, hey, the pop-up comedy show is going to be in Culver City on Friday at 8 p.m. And you can get tickets on the website. Or I'll literally pop up like on like where there's a lot of foot traffic. Like downtown Burbank or Crenshaw Boulevard or like wherever I feel like being.
With no announcement, just
no announcement. And I'll just kind of like, I'm a comedian, right? So I'll just busk for audience. Like, you want to see a comedy show? 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 And then I have my cute little tip jar that has like a little note at the bottom that says, gas me up. Because it's like both a compliment and I need gas.
And I need gas.
And just, take it from there.
How often do you do this?
Prior to the pandemic, I was doing it all the time, every week.
Oh, you started this pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, 2017. Shit,
yeah.
Yes, you're right.
And the first year, I did it all the time because it was like in beta. You know what I mean? I needed to figure out like if my vision of it fit the reality of it, And then the second year, so actually I bought it in 2017, but it took me like 6 months to get it built because no one understood what I wanted. So,
well, yeah. Because when I heard like pop-up comedy band, I'm like,
it didn't exist. So they like, no matter how I said it in words, they like didn't get it. So I would have to go back and go, no, not like this, right? Like, no, I need a stage. Like, no, I need it to wired like this, like all of that. It took some time. So in 2018 in March, I got it on the streets. And so the first year I just everywhere, everything I could think. The second year I focused more on groups and parties and
events,
trying to work it like that. And that was 19. And then it was 20. And I was like, it's trying to kill me. I can't have people in this small space.
It's such a confined space, especially after the pandemic.
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, when we didn't even know, like, is it airborne? Is it not? Like,
Are we going to become zombies?
Yeah.
Right? Like, am I going to see people dropping dead on this? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
how does one book you? What's the website? Like, tell me and tell everybody listening, how can they find you and how can they book you?
You go to what George Bush called the intergoogles.
Okay.
And
the intergoogles.
That is what he called it. It was a long time ago, so in his defense. And you go to popupcomedyshow.com.
Popupcomedyshow.com.
That is the website.
Okay. Do you have an Instagram?
Yes, of course.
What is the Instagram?
Pop-Up Comedy Show.
Pop-Up Comedy Show. Okay.
And Facebook.
Yes. And
And
TikTok? You have a TikTok? Or
I have
not
a
yet?
TikTok, but it's my personal TikTok.
Okay,
It's
got it.
Satarius. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's popupcomedyshow.com and Pop-Up Comedy Show on Instagram.
On all your platforms.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, guys, definitely check this pop-up comedy van out. I've gotten the opportunity to see it in person. This thing is super dope, whether it's for a corporate party or just for shits and giggles with your boys, or your family. It's such an awesome experience that, just from the little bit that I've gotten to experience, I believe has a ton of potential.
I just want to, before we move on in the conversation, I want to share a little bit. Some of the things that I've been doing is taking bookings where people think that they want to be funny, right? And I'm like, just book the van, get your friends, right? And I will walk you through creating the joke.
Wow.
In front of everybody. And it's been so, people have been mind blown at because you think if you hear someone showing you how to do it, it's not going to be funny, but it's hilarious.
I can imagine.
Because people don't really know joke structure. So once I put what they're saying in the structure of a joke, it hits every time. So it's so fun. I've done that. I've done, I'm looking to create a super fan series where I can get some of the bigger name comics and if you really love this Bill Burr person or if you really love this person, those tickets are going to be a lot higher because it's just going to be you and 10 of his other
Yeah.
9 of his other super fans, right? That, and like getting some influencers in there as well, like, you know, and having them do whatever they're doing on social media, but do it live.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
And
coming
in
up
an
with some
intimate
colors.
setting, right? Like,
So intimate.
how dope would that be for comedians who are normally like used to doing big audiences now, because that's just all they do, to then have the opportunity to like almost back to the basics. Like,
It scares a lot of them.
oh,
Yeah. Because the person in the front row is literally right there
like at your knees.
at your knees. Yeah. It's like, all these antics. You can't be jumping around because then you have to buy me new shocks. Like, there's no dancing, no musical breaks. It's just you
Just you raw.
and what
There
you
go.
got
Yep.
and your audience. But I've only had 2 comedians bomb in the van, and they knew they were going to bomb, and they convinced me. I knew they were going to bomb. They knew they were going to bomb, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to do it? It's very intimate." And they were like, "No, yeah." I was like, "Okay." I said, "If you don't do well, you're going to have to leave my audience alone. You can't just stay up there."
Yeah. You're gonna. All right, guys, I'm out.
Because then you're uber aware that you're in a van and that someone's being weird
Yeah. Right. You never want to be weird.
in a van.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not fun. It's just weird. Is this weird?
This is absolutely weird.
Yeah.
Do you see that weird? It's just right there in front of you.
Wait, that car just drove by.
All right, guys, peace.
I need to get out of here.
Speaking of comedy, another thing that I'm curious about is women in comedy. Right?
Sorry.
So where this is coming from, I guess, is I'm relating it to my industry, right? The industry of barbering. I feel like in the last 8 years to a decade is when now female barbers have really started coming onto the scene, right? I still feel like we're in the process of this journey where I still get phone calls, right? Hi, this is original Clip Joint. Yes, how may I book you? Right? Like, what time? And then I'll book them. All right, you're about to receive a text confirming your appointment. The name of your barber's on there, and they'll see it. And they'll be like, oh, it's a girl? And I'm like, yes, it's a girl. And they're like, oh, is there a guy? Or they'll be, oh, does she know how to fade? Right? Like, it's almost like there's still people that question it.
Because in order to fade, you have to, obviously, and everyone knows this, have a penis.
You do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? But people are just not getting that. Right? The women that are coming in, they're just not getting that the one requirement you need, they just don't have. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I still see that there's a process of females becoming more noticed and acknowledged as professionals. Because, dude, these females that we have at the shop, they're fucking dope, right? And I've seen so many females now, especially more and more, that are just fucking awesome, sponsored by companies and all these things. So that was my long-winded way of saying, in this industry of comedy, are women already accepted? Is it still a male-driven industry?
It's so wild because I will have audience members come up to me after a show and go, my girlfriend loved you. She doesn't even like female comics. He doesn't even think women are funny. It's just like, oh, and I've heard men say like, yeah, it's a bunch of girl jokes. And so the answer is like, it's horrible. And most comedy shows that you see, when you look at the lineup, it's all men and one woman, maybe. So there was a comedy club that was down the street from my house. And I remember I got really close with the owner. We had mutual friends outside of comedy as well. And I remember one day I went and sat in his office and I said, these comics you have on this lineup tonight, you had them on last night's lineup. And they're doing 2 shows tonight. And you just rotated the girl. Last night you didn't even have a girl. Tonight you got a girl, but you got 2 different girls because one girl can't do 2 shows. But these guys can do 3 shows. Right? And I was like, you're giving your audience the same show every week, every night, all the time. How is that the plan? You don't have no women at your shows? Women only laugh at men. Like, you know, I don't know. It's just weird. But that again goes back to why I created my van. So that I can, because I started producing shows because of that. When I started doing comedy, I immediately started producing.
So you also produce. Like,
Yes.
what does that look like?
I get to, because when you first start doing comedy, they call you an open mic comic because you're just trying to practice and get reps on stage, and the comedy clubs won't book you because they don't think you can do what you're doing in front of the audience. They think you're still practicing, right? So the way you get booked in the beginning is you do bringer shows. So you create a deal with a producer where it's like, I'm going to bring this many people and you're going to give me this many minutes. But those bringer shows are horrific because anybody who can bring 5 to 10 people to a club can go on stage. So then your friends have to sit through these people that can, just because they know people, not because they're funny.
Got it.
Right? And then your friends have to buy 2 drinks. They have to pay at the door. And so I was immediately like, I'm not doing bringer shows. If I'm going to do a bringer show, I'm going to bring the whole audience. Because I know a lot of people. And I'll bring a whole audience and I'll make a great show so that people will come back. You know?
Yeah.
So, and then I can have a balanced lineup and get women on the stage. And so I just took that and created the van. I also had, you know, one of the biggest promoters in LA sit next to me and say, you know, Satarius, I would love to book you. You know, I've watched you grow, da da da. It's just like, you know, if you were just nicer to me, put his hand on my thigh. And I was like, nice? Oh, no, I'm not nice. And then one of my friends, who's a comic and a man, walked by. I was like, you be booking him all the time. Are you nice to him? I said, is that why he keeps booking you? He was like, nah, I'm not nice to him. I was like, I didn't think you ain't that nice to me. Like, but just all of the reasons why, you know, to have my own stage, to create, to be in charge of my own career.
One thing that comes up for me right now, because what I get from you is you've been in this industry for a while, right? And you've been in the fashion and entertainment industry for a while. And just what came up for me right now that I just believe is insane, that I would love to hear your perspective on how you see things different. That whole like if you were nice to me, right? Like, I think it's like child trafficking, right? Like, you know it's happening, right? But like, do you really pay much attention to it? Like, are you saying that still happens? Like promoters and the owners of the company will be like, hey, so like I'll book you?
1,000,000%. You know,
has it changed?
You know
Has
what
it evolved?
saves me from it now is that I'm older and fatter, and I honestly think that is why, so super subconsciously, I let myself gain weight. Because it's like, dude, bruh, you really don't, just put me on the stage because you don't want this. Like, go get her. Like, I don't know. I'm saying that jokingly, but I do think like subconsciously, because I had so much of that coming up in the entertainment business, that my opportunities were attached to this contingency. And I just kept going, like, if one of them was cute a little bit, then I could have been out of here. You know what I'm saying?
I'd have been at the top.
But it's never the cute ones. They seem to be all right. Like, can I get a record deal from this one?
From this one?
No, this one. No. Okay, fine.
Fuck. God damn it. And so as far as like, what would you say that is one of the biggest challenges, getting through the promoters as a woman, or as a woman comedian, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had to face?
That is one of the biggest challenges. But the other big challenge is like just being funny. For me, I sift all of my jokes through like, if a man could say this and it's just as funny, then this is a great joke. If I have to be a woman in order for this to be funny, this is a throwaway joke that I can use as filler if I want to. But it's like, don't rest on this, because it's parsley on a plate, you know?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And what comes up for me is I've like been seeing more female comedians on like my feed and stuff like that, and some of these women are fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And some of the content that I've found really hilarious is that woman content. Like if they talk about their menstrual, like if they talk about that, I'm just like, that's fucking hilarious because I can totally see that.
But the thing is, technically, if a man had that knowledge, he could talk about it like that too. He just doesn't know it, right? But the ones that are not funny are the ones that are using that topic to shock.
And what would something like that look like?
Oh, I don't want to even example that. But like any shock comedy where it's like, I'm going to talk about giving head and it's going to, be so graphic that it'll be funny. But it's like not really. It's one joke, right? That isn't even like a whole beat. Like what's really funny about giving head is when you follow it with a shot of tequila. You feel me?
You
like
got a chaser. Yeah, if you need a chaser, then.
But like the whole, I don't know, and I don't even know if that's funny. But like, I don't like shock comedy for men or women, and I feel like some of the women and how women kind of got a bad rap in comedy was we sat too long in that space of I'll say anything. Right?
To perform.
It's unexpected, and so they'll laugh instead of really crafting material.
Has that been quite a challenge for you to have to go around that adversity in order to be a comedian?
No, I'm just not her, like my father talked to me about sex. I remember being 6 years old and going, Dad, what are the birds and the bees? And he was like, Satarius, if I knew that story, you wouldn't know so much about sex. Right? So it's like sex doesn't shock me. So I just don't talk about it like that. And I don't often talk about it on stage at all. If I do talk about it, it's more of an allusion to it than like trying to be graphic about it.
Yeah.
I had to purposely sit down and write a dick joke so that I knew I had one in case I needed it, right? And it was more like he should get a handicap placard because no one is that small. But it's a disability. It's not his fault.
Got it. Okay.
I have been called, when I get off stage in like certain black clubs, that go, give it up for Satara. She sure is witty.
What the fuck is that supposed to be?
Disrespectful, but I'm gonna take it because I don't get up there talking about getting high, and I don't get up there talking about excuse my language, but getting fucked. I'm not gonna do that.
It's not your style of comedy.
Yeah, so call me witty then.
I'll take witty.
Thanks.
You and I were talking prior to coming on here, and this is
them that.
This is a.
I'm just kidding.
Plenty of conversations go on before we hit record. I think I've said it on the show before that for me, most of the value that I get by doing this, I already get prior to even recording.
Yeah.
Right. Like the conversations I get to have with you guys, the conversations we just end up flowing in naturally because we're getting curious with each other and about the show, what you've been up to, like your life. For me, that's where the value comes from. And I share that with anybody and everybody that really is for me where I get the most, which is the pre-conversations. And one conversation that I don't feel I fully got the most of that you and I were having that I would really want to have, because I think this would probably be one of the first. I mean, if it's the second, I definitely don't remember the first.
Okay.
Right. But this would be definitely
Sorry for them.
Yeah. Right. This would definitely be the first. You did share with me that your career in entertainment and fashion led you into moving to New York.
Yeah.
For 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. I just went to New York recently. I love that city. I don't know if I live there. And I definitely love it, right? I was in Manhattan at the Chavez Convention Center. You did mention to me you were in New Jersey, which I know is just a stone throw away from, New York City. One thing you did share briefly with me about was that you were there during that time when 9/11 happened.
That morning, yes, I was there.
Right?
I was supposed to leave the next day and could not. Yeah.
And for me, I don't know, like I said, and if I have, I don't recall, right? I just don't know if I've had a conversation with anyone yet of that was actually present by that city, at that time. What was that like to be in that city when that happened?
It was, the only thing I can liken it to no, it's not even like that. I was going to liken it to kind of like the pandemic space, like how the air was when
Yeah,
everyone
that
was
heavy,
quarantined.
like,
But it's not really like that. It's much worse than that because it was like it was buzzing the air. The air was buzzing. And you got to imagine this big city that's always a lot of movement with no movement, no air traffic, right? Because all air traffic was stopped. And we weren't quarantined, but it's like when you were outside, you still felt like you were separated from the rest of the world. And I was just really glad to be there actually because I had a lot of really near and dear friends in New York in the 5 boroughs, and I could reach them and I could find out that everyone's safe and everyone's loved one is safe. And if I had been here in LA, then none of the calls were going into the city. And none of the calls were going out. So they wouldn't have been able to call me and say, hey, we're good. I wouldn't have been able to call them to know if they were good. And that's when I was like, I'm moving here. I'm going to be close to the people that I really care about.
Had you just moved there?
I hadn't moved there yet. I was there on a job.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was there on a job.
And so I hear you say like the energy was like heavy, like right, like it was this experience.
And there was this crescent moon right on the 12th. Weird.
Yeah, right. If you connect the dots, they will definitely be connected for sure. I'm almost certain they will. You said that when you turned on the TV, it was right when the second plane crashed.
I saw the second plane fly into the building. That's right when I turned on the television. And it was like watching a movie, but it was the news. And they were talking about the first building and didn't even realize that behind them, the second plane was coming in.
Wow.
Designated survivor. I don't know.
Wow, that must have been wild.
Chilling.
Man. That must have been wild to be there during that time.
And you see people on the news, and they edited it afterwards, but you see people jumping out of that tower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those videos before where they have that.
Yeah.
Like they show, that's insane, man. That's insane.
And you hear all the stories of like, the office managers going, everybody stay seated. We're all going to the conference room, or like, the directives being brought down from the higher ups for what the staff is supposed to do, right? And one of my friends' mom was like, you guys go to the conference room. I'm getting out of here. And she walked out of that second building right as that plane hit. Yeah, it's so many stories like that in that city. So many of those stories and so many of the other ones. So many of the other ones.
Wow, man, I couldn't even imagine that. And she survived.
Yeah.
To walk out of the building the moment that other one hit, that's insane.
Yeah. And the ground, the building's like imploding, the ground is shit. And so I don't know.
Yeah. No, I bet.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was where my curiosity came from. Because, the stories are one thing, but like the experience of being there.
Yeah.
Right. Like that had to have definitely been something.
It was something. And I even was in Jersey, Yeah, I was second left off the tunnel. So right in Jersey City. But like I wasn't even in Manhattan for the day yet. So I could only imagine.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. Thank you so much for sharing the 9/11 experience. Like at least, I don't know what the experience was like over there for you, but there was a couple of moments where you were sharing where as you were sharing, it was almost like you were reliving the experience and you kind of like there was some emotion there for you, right? So again, you're probably one of the first people I've talked to about this, so that you were even willing to go there with me. You know what I mean? I just thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for asking.
The other thing I'm curious about, and this curiosity comes from my dad actually never being a real estate agent. My dad graduated from the 3rd grade in Mexico. Like that's the furthest he went, right?
Wow.
Furthest, period. Like that's it. End of school, 3rd grade, Mexico. And he's been into purchasing real estate for a while now. Fortunately, he's, just involved in real estate, investment-wise. He's not a real estate agent, nothing like that. And so you are a real estate agent.
I am.
Right? Okay, perfect. And so this question comes from the background of like my dad, right? Like the curiosity of it, which is since you've been in real estate, like what have you discovered? Meaning, what did you not know before becoming a real estate agent that you now know about real estate and how it works?
Well, the first thing that I learned almost immediately upon like studying for and getting my license is that real estate is the game of America. That's the game America's playing. It's Monopoly. Once you own a home, you're on the board.
Like you're in the game.
You're in the game. Now you have all these opportunities like equity and like all of this stuff that renters don't know anything about and don't have any access to. And what I've learned being in real estate, being in the business, is that all of the media that you hear about the market, unless you do a deep dive, unless you're really serious about getting in the game and you do a deep dive to discover what's real, if you just listen to what you have what comes across your desk, the intention is to keep you off the board, to keep you out of this game, because they cannot create more land. They do not need more players.
And when you say they, you mean who?
I mean the people, corporations that own most of it, that control most of it. I say America's in the game of real estate. In all honesty, America's in the game of money. But the best way to sell money, like have people borrow money, is to have them buy real estate, because that's the biggest chunk of money you're ever going to spend in your life, right? You're going to take out that loan. You're going to pay that interest, right? And that's how the banks make their money, is on your money, your loan.
Yeah.
Right? So the best way for us to have you borrow all this money so that we can charge you all this money is to have you buy this real estate. Well, we can only sell so much real estate because that's all we have, right? And we don't want to sell it to people that won't pay us, right? We want to sell it to the people that are kind of tried and true. So we don't need those new people to get into this game. We just need the people that are in the game to stay in the game and to go in deeper.
And now in that case though, would you say both parties are benefiting, right? Like someone who manages somehow to get in the game and then gets more in the game and gets deeper and buys more real estate. Yes, I get that the banks are definitely winning, right? Would you also say, though, that individual taking those actions to continue purchasing this real estate also benefits?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I encourage people who are not on the board to get on the board. And there are so many ways to get in this game. Like, it seems impossible and it is very intrusive, and they're going to ask you to lift your skirt and explain your actions. Yes, they are, and it's worth it.
How does one that's not in the game yet get in the game? Because what I heard you say was like, it's not as, I don't want to say it's not as hard, but I did hear you say like it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? How does one get in the game? And now this question is coming from, they just built some townhomes next to my barbershop, right? And I went to go look at them, and I don't know if they were going for $670 or $760, one of those, right? Anyway, all I know is that putting 3% down on the home, my monthly payment with HOA, taxes, insurance, right? No Netflix, no Hulu, no nothing, food, nothing of the
No
extra
gas
stuff,
in your
right? No
car.
gas in my
Yeah.
car, right? And I don't got a Tesla, right? So my shit takes gas, right? Was going to be almost $5,400,
Yeah.
right? Like, how does one, right, especially as a single or as an individual, as like a one, like the breadwinner, right, like of the household, there's only one income. How does one get in the game?
Well, it's two different questions, really. One question is, how do you get in? Like, how do you get in to
Okay.
buy that? And the other question is, how do you maintain it?
Got it.
Right? So how do you qualify to borrow the money that it takes to get in there? There's a lot of ways, and most of them are very expensive,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Unless you have a lot of cash. But you can do it. And it just depends on what you're willing to do in order to do it. And one thing you can say about Los Angeles County, and I don't even know if we're still in Los Angeles County, but over any given 5 to 10 year period, real estate only ever appreciates.
Yeah.
So if you can get in and stay for 5, you're going to make money.
If you get in and save for 10, you're going to make more money.
You're going to make more money.
Got it.
That's not true for every market.
Yeah.
Right. But that is true here.
Yeah.
And the real estate here is expensive.
Yeah.
To say the least. It's
Yeah.
exorbitant. And I don't understand how people, we just worked on a deal for $2.3 million and the monthly note was like, I don't know, $12,000.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous home, but it was like off Coliseum in La Brea. It's a beautiful street, but like when I was in high school, they used to shoot right, right there. I'm not talking about film. So yeah, how you maintain it is like a whole other story.
So then tell me that, because me personally, right? Like, just because I'm a business owner doesn't mean I fucking have cash flowing out my fucking nostrils, right? Like, that's just not the case. I personally, I cannot maintain at the moment in my current situation. I cannot see a present where I can maintain a $5,400 monthly mortgage payment and all of my personal expenses that come along with that.
You're not going to like the answer.
Okay.
No, roommates.
Yeah.
It's and maybe just for a period of time, right? And they get to pay rent and you get your mortgage decreased and you have an asset and they get to move out when you get sick of them or you can afford,
Your place.
Air place.
What about when you have kids? Because I have kids, and I've thought of that before, right? Like, dude, like
charge them kids. This is what I'm talking about. These kids need to start learning responsibility. What are they, 3? Right? What have they been doing?
They're just sitting around. What the fuck's going on here?
Book. That's not. No. Don't be just booking. I don't know. I know. It's a conundrum. I don't have the answer, but those mostly it's questions for lenders, right? How to get yourself ready and how to maintain it is like more, talk to your financial advisors, talk to lenders, but I say it's worth getting in, and maybe you don't get to buy the brand new townhome that they just built. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got to buy the refurb that has excellent moldings and ugly walls, right? And you create your own space. And there's plenty of places in Los Angeles and in the area as well that could use some TLC. And maybe it's a matter of like finding those owners and saying, hey, this property is just sitting. I'd love to have a conversation with you about, taking it off your hands, and you don't get to move in right away because it's,
right, you got to do some stuff.
Some spurs in there. But I don't know. Every situation is different.
Yeah. That's tough.
I definitely feel like we're still in the aftermath of the pandemic where property values really skyrocketed and our dollar value really plummeted, right? So your dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to in any place that you spend it. Not at the barbershop.
Not
at the grocery store. Not at the, and definitely not in the housing market. And wages have not matched. They haven't bridged the gap. Like nothing we've done so far has bridged the gap. I had one client I was working with for 2 years, and I feel like she just kept waiting for the prices to drop. And I was just like, finally, we just fired each other because I was like, that's not what happens. Like this 2008 is not going to happen again. You're waiting for, like, they've already put too many like safety valves in place. It's not going to bottom out again. We don't have bad loans like we did before. We just have low inventory and high interest. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not going to happen. Like, You know, get in.
You got to jump in wherever it's at.
You got to jump in where it's at, and then build some equity and refi. That's, I guess, the key. Maintain it for a year and refi.
Yeah.
I wish I had better news for you.
It's all good. It's all good.
At least I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, because if you were, this would be fucked up, dog.
Like her bedside manner. She was making jokes about my kids.
Bro, can you believe that shit? Charging my kids rent and shit.
Think
I know
about
I
it,
should.
though.
We should.
But
I
think
think we
about
should.
it.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah. I think I'm actually gonna go home tonight and be like, "Hey, motherfuckers, you guys gotta step this shit
I
up."
would work that out with her mom first. 'Cause that could cause
I'll
some
fucking charge her
issues.
too. You gotta start paying some shit too.
It could cause some issues, but yeah. I mean, what is this dog living for free? What does this dog do?
I know,
It's just
right?
dog?
She's just dog. That's
Yeah.
all she does. She just lays there, as you can see.
She's
every
adorable.
podcast episode, she's right there.
She's adorable.
Yep, she's right there.
I think if you put your kids on social media, like a lot of these influencers are, you can
That
make
might work
yourself
out.
a nice little
That might work
living.
out, right? That would definitely work out. Speaking of social media, right now that you bring that topic up, is that something that you're big on with the comedy van?
Supposed to be.
Guy, I'll take that as a no.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That is absolutely a no. I went through this past winter, like forcing myself onto social media because I'm so not social media.
Why?
My go-to response to that is that I'm older. Like I came before social media. You know what I'm saying? So I watched it
Evolve.
begin, you know, and
Why this conversation is interesting for me is because, I believe we all want our businesses to grow or our passions and our hobbies to grow, right? And I, just in my own perspective, I truly believe that whether we like it or not, right? Like it doesn't matter what we feel, how we feel about it, right? If we think it's depressing our youth, if we think it's the devil, if we think it's whatever, right? Like I believe social media doesn't care. And in this moment, it's one of the biggest tools for communicating a message to the masses
for sure.
that we've ever had.
Yep.
Right. And whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a charity, whether it's a business, whether it's a hobby, like whatever it is, I believe that attention, even before social media, has always been the asset, right? What makes a business, what made a business good back in the 80s?
I want you to go back and say business. Go ahead.
Business, right? Like what had a business be successful in the 80s? It was location, right? And the location was predominantly based on awareness.
Yeah.
How aware were people going to be that you existed?
Yes.
Right? And that's where you would want to place your business.
Yes.
Right? And I feel like now with social media, everybody is on social media. Therefore, whatever you're up to, if you put it on social media and you put it out there as much as humanly possible, you will create the asset of attention.
Yeah.
And it's free, right? Like whether we like it or not, it's free. And so my curiosity is always what stops people from putting something they want to grow into the biggest system for awareness we've ever had available to any individual.
It's so good that how you crafted that question, because only someone who kind of came up with it would craft it that way, right? So a couple things came up for me when you were creating the question. One, I don't personify social media in any way. It's not the devil. It's not, bad or good or any of the things. It's not at fault. For me, it's just not my habit, right? I live my life in 3D.
Got it.
That's it. So I just need to create a habit of sharing, right? But let's not pretend that although it's free and although it's there and it's accessed, that it doesn't take some skill to get the actual attention. Because you can talk into an empty vortex on social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
No one's listening if you don't grab anyone's attention. No one cares just because they come across it. Just because they swiped, it doesn't mean they care.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that you have to create that will have them stay long enough to get interested.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody can. That's not a natural born skill that every human being has.
I don't believe any skill really is, though.
Well, I do feel like
I didn't come out of the womb cutting hair.
no, of
right?
course, but like there are singers that like you know you can
And even the
they've been singing
singers,
since they were 3 and they
Exactly.
just had a beautiful voice.
and that's what I'm saying. For me, even if they started it at a young age, which
Yeah.
we would then call it to be natural,
yeah,
it still required a repetitive,
Yes.
right? Like how you said, habit.
yeah,
Nonetheless, it doesn't matter if they were born with a great voice. The only way they became a singer
yeah,
was through
Working.
was through
Yeah.
repeating and singing and singing and
Yeah.
singing and singing and singing and singing, right? And that's the only way they got better,
yeah.
right? Whether they liked singing or not, they still got better at it through repetitive practice.
And then there's all these people that like I do notice like there are people that like post their meals and like I'm like so right.
yeah.
I love it when you show me how you created your meal.
Yes.
But I
The
don't
value.
need to see a picture of your plate, you know? And there are some people that think everything that they do deserves attention.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of very curated, you should hear that as like fake photographs or like, you know, it's like, why are you leaning on my car? Can you?
Can you lean on your own car?
Right. Oh, you don't have a car. Can you get off my car? You know, it's like there's a lot of that too. So I think that people that I've talked to that are not very committed to creating the habit, they go, oh, it doesn't make sense for me to post all the time where I'm at, what I'm doing, da 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 da. And I don't really have that. I just have it that like if I go someplace cool, I want to be in that space, right? Like I didn't post that I was gonna come here,
Yeah.
because I was just excited.
Yeah, I get it.
And I don't have a good habit. Okay, I got the message. I gotta get better.
And it's a skill. I love the way you put that, because I truly believe the more people became aware that social media is a tool, just like your mic when you stand up in your van, right? Just like my clipper when I hold it in my hand, right? It's a tool,
Yeah.
right? And just like I had to practice to craft the skill of fading and all of this, and just like you had to go up on stage and up on stage and up on stage and hold different mics
Yep.
over and over to get where you're going, I believe with social media, it's the same thing. If you just get the tool and you repeat it and you practice and you try different things, different posts, what
Yep.
works, what doesn't work, eventually with continued repetition, even if your first 100 videos, 300 videos didn't really get much attention, as long as you keep putting them out there, you have that possibility that one may catch, and then you get momentum. And because you have the practice of already just creating, you can carry that momentum and you can sustain it.
What you're saying is so true. And I did like a couple of experiments on TikTok because I have it that like none of my friends follow me on TikTok, just like people that I don't really know do. And not that many of them. But so I did this thing where I was like, I forced myself to post every day, no matter what. And in the beginning, what I realized was how sort of camera shy I was about it. Like I had all of these like protections, you know, and all these stories in my head about what it had to look like and what it had to sound like and what, you know, so it was like I learned all of the things that were stopping me because I bumped up against them. And so like those first few videos, I'm like, I don't have nothing to say, but I promised I'd post this. So here you go.
Here you go.
And then like 5 days later, it's like, okay, I know I said this like a few days ago, but like, again, nothing. But I posted it, right? Oh, shoot, I almost fell asleep, but I'm posting it.
Yeah.
Like, it counts, right? And so I can't wait till I can archive all those videos because I have such great content.
Yeah.
But it was like towards the end of it trying to figure out like, what's my thing? TikTok, there's so many things that you can do, people, food reviews or recipes or whatever. There's a guy that's like, he starts his video and then he goes, come here, and he zooms it. Like, there's so many
there's
little
just so many ways to entertain.
hacks, and I didn't find it yet. So I got to keep working.
Got it. So this conversation for me, why it's interesting with you in particular, is because at least my vision of things is I just feel like having a comedy van like that, there's just so much content, right? Like just so much organic content, right? Like one thing I'll share here, I might have shared it before. This podcast, right? Like why I do this podcast is not really for like the podcast itself. It's not really for the long form video. It's not for the hour-long video that's going to come out of this. It's for all of the little 10 to 45-second clips
Shorts.
I can extract from them to turn them into TikToks, turn them into Reels, turn them into YouTube Shorts. And I believe that's where I get like the maximum potential of these messages getting out, right? More so than this. Now, just like your comedy van, right? We just come here, we hit record, and then we just flow, right? And then whatever happens to come out of this, great. I'll clip it out, put captions on it, do my editing with it, and like release it out into the world. And so like I think of the same concept with your comedy van, where it's like, even if it's just you, because some comics might not want you to film it, whatever the case, right? Even if it was just you and the comics that you were like, hey, can you just sign this disclaimer that I can use your set, right? Or parts of your set for promotion for the pop-up comedy van, Instagram, website, all these things. And literally every single comic that goes up that gives you consent, you just hit record. And if something comes out of it, great. And if nothing comes out of it, great, right? And you just extract those small clips. Right? What's there for you when I say all that?
It's true. My eyes lit it. And what's wild is that when I book comics, I send them a booking letter that they sign that gives them like the information of how much they're expected to perform and what they can expect to be compensated. And inside of that letter, I also request the right to 60 seconds of their performance for social media promotions. And so I have it. Yeah. Great minds think alike.
Yes. It's there. Well, at least the structure is there.
Thirsty.
Right? At least the structure is there. Another conversation I want to get into with you, and I love that I have you out on a guest on the show, because I feel like this is some relatedness you and I have, which is that you and I have taken a lot of the same communications courses. We've even been in some of those courses together at the same time, right? And I know I've definitely had my challenges when it comes to communication, right? Like one thing that I've always recalled is when I first started getting into communication and just like being more aware of it, what it looks like, it was almost like I started weaponizing it.
Ooh.
Right? Like I started using it to like, ooh, like that person really is not listening to that person. Like that person, or like, why does that person not see that person is just saying X? Right? Like, and it was more of like a judgment, like, because I now seen what communication can look like. I was more like, right? And then especially with some of the people in my immediate environment that had been doing the communications courses with me, right? I would use it as like, dude, we're practicing the same shit. You don't see it? Like, wait a minute here. Like, do you really not see what you're doing right now? Like, we were both just in that same course. Right? I think we even had a conversation of like that distinction. And now you're over here like, judge what's going on, right? Like, it was almost like a weapon that I was using it at. And so I definitely had my challenges when it came to like discovering what this looks like. Right? It wasn't always just like, ooh, you learn something and you start using it and it's great, right? Like, I feel like it was definitely a huge process for me to get to like where I am now and where I want to go. And the practice and process will never end. That's another thing I've discovered. Yeah. Right? Like, there's no end. You know, there's no goal. There's nowhere to get to with communication. It's just going to be a constant practice till the day I die. And I believe for me, the practice is to be present to it in as many moments as possible from now until the day I die. And that's really it, right? And so for you, what would you say have been some of those challenges you've had since beginning your journey in communication? And what is some of the growth you've had from those challenges?
Oh my. I'm just going to say this here, and I don't know if it's properly placed, but if I haven't said it before, I'm so excited and honored that you asked me to be a guest here. And I'm so proud of you that this podcast was something you talked about when we met, and that it's happening, and that, like, from what I understand, it was like started and stopped, and everything that you went through or experienced on the path to this place. I'm just ecstatic for you, and I'm ecstatic to be here.
Thank you.
You can just take that and put it wherever it fits. But I did not want that to go unsaid. In terms of the communication courses, that's one of the benefits, right? Is that not only do I get present to what I'm feeling, but I have the words to articulate it and the nerve to articulate it at any moment. You know, people, and I even like disclaimed it just now, like you can put it wherever it's appropriate, but like, in fact, it's always appropriate to acknowledge another. When is it not? Who's going to go, like, don't compliment me right now. What?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if they mad at you. If you acknowledge them in the moment, and that's something that the communication courses that we've done has really gotten me to see, is that my communication, if I'm willing to be completely 100% responsible for it, can create whatever experience I'm out to have. And if I'm not willing to be 100% responsible for it, if I only want to be 90% responsible for it, well, guess what? 10% of the time, I'm going to get something I don't want. Mm-hmm. And it's probably going to be very bad for me. Right? And that's been my biggest challenge, is like the willingness to be 100% responsible. You know, this course that we've done together, it happens in quarters. Mm-hmm. And last quarter, I had a lot of really challenging experiences in communication with some of the team members. And I remember being asked if I could, they used the word recreate. I was like, they're dismissing me. Can you recreate them? Can you recreate that? I'm like, recreate them dismissing me? Yeah, that's gonna be a minute. Check back with me when I'm done being dismissed. Yeah. You know? Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
You're dismissing me, and that's recreated.
There's your recreation.
How you like it.
I hope you got it.
Right. But what I really got in the end was, am I willing to be responsible that that's how it's landing for me, that I'm being dismissed? Because are they really out to dismiss me, or are they protecting themselves from whatever threat they think I am?
Like, it has what I'm hearing there is like, is it really personal, or is it just like them being them and whatever they're defending or whatever they're afraid of, or just whatever that is going on over there that has nothing to do with me over here?
What's wild is that human beings, I started real broad, but I'm gonna bring right back here to this seat. Like, feel like I'm in a constant state of being threatened. And all you really get to see is my reaction to that. Really. And so sometimes you get to see me choose not to be threatened. And sometimes you get to see me choose to be threatened and respond. And when I break it down like that, I'm like, what's the threat that is happening to me in this conversation? Someone told me a couple of weeks ago, yeah, I don't want to pursue a friendship with you. And I was like, I got all like up on my hunches. And I was like, you don't want to be their friend either. So why can't you just be with
their communication?
It's fine. And what are they really communicating to you, and what's the threat to you? There's none. Okay, I got it. And when we do talk, I just don't want it to be anything between us that would interrupt a natural love and affinity.
Mm.
Not friendship, right? But just like a love and affinity for another human being.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, because one of the things that comes up for me when I have this conversation with others is, I've used this term before where I say, like, is there anything in the way of your communication with that other person, right? And for people who aren't in the work, sometimes it like they're like, I don't get what that, like, what do you mean by that, right? And so the way that I like to articulate it for them is like, okay, if you were walking in the street, right, and you seen said person across the street, right? Would you be like, yo, what's up? Right? Or would you be like, shh, keep walking, right? Like, or would you be like, oh, like, I see them over there, but let's just maybe they don't see me, right? Maybe they don't see me. So the way that I see it is, if you don't have the desire, right, to look over and be noticed,
Yeah.
or acknowledge, like, yo, John, hey, shh,
Yeah.
right? And if you're more in the space of like, oh shit, that person's over there, right? Like, let's go, right? Like, then I would say the latter means there is something in the way of your communication with that person.
Yeah.
Right? And so that you said that right now, like, that's the way I see it. Like, which relationships in your life do you have that you would avoid if you were across the street from each other?
Yeah.
Right? And if so, what's there? Right? And are you even committed to this person?
But
right?
here's what's so wild to me is that most of the time, what's there feels so big while it's there and can get cleared up in like 2 sentences. I'm stretching it to 2.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's an introductory sentence.
Yeah. Hi, how you doing?
Like, yeah, right. It can get cleared up so quickly, and it stops so much opportunity, so much to experience.
It's a trip because it's just communication. Right? I love that I've been able to have this, that I've been able to share this story with my kids and that they fucking get it, right? Which is the story of the saber-toothed tiger, right? Which is like when we were created with these defense mechanisms, right? Like we were created this way because back then we had spiders, right? We didn't have a house. We had to sleep under trees. We had to go under shade so the sun wouldn't burn us. And we had to run from saber-toothed tigers, right? And what I've researched and what I've gotten from a few things that I've gotten curious about is that we have not, as human beings, we have not evolved, right? Like our biology has not evolved quick enough for our brain and our body brain, right, to know the difference between you wanting to tell that person you no longer want to have a relationship with them and a saber-toothed tiger chasing you.
Wow.
Right? Like your brain doesn't know how to distinguish it, right? And therefore, when you used to get faced with the saber-toothed tiger, you used to either fight, right, fly, or freeze, right? Which are the same distinctions we take on when we are confronted with the communication that we're resisting, right? We either choose to fight it, resist it, defend it, manipulate it, right? Freeze, withhold, not say anything, keep it to myself. I don't want to stir up the pot. Or we fly. We just like, I want to get out of this communication as quickly as possible. Where's the nearest exit?
Yeah.
I'm out. Right. And so what I've gotten from the things I've looked up is that that's our way, our body and our big brain, right? Like our thoughts, feelings, emotions are just responding.
Yeah.
Right. When in reality, there is no saber-toothed tiger. There's just sounds coming out of your mouth. Right? That regardless of how that person takes it or doesn't take it, it's what's there for you.
Yeah.
And if you just said it, right? Like that completion you'd get from it, that like, just like, okay, right? Like I get that they still think that, but I'm so glad I said it.
Yeah. And it's oftentimes that when they say it or you say it, then it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we could also create the habit of like just being with what's said and having space for what's next after it's stated, because it sometimes it stays the same, but sometimes it just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm very present to like people get so affected by the words that they stay in that spot of like, you said this to me, right? It's like, man, I said that forever ago.
Yeah, right? Like, fuck. And you know what? Even then, though, like what I get from that is like if somebody in your life is still going like yeah, but you said that thing to me, right? I believe all they're really looking for is like, fuck, you're right.
Yeah.
That was a shitty thing to say.
Yeah.
And that was my bad, right? Like, you're my boy.
Yeah.
And really, like, as my boy, like, that's not the way I want my boys to talk to me. And so that you took that in that way, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's my bad.
What's difficult is when they fight, flight, or freeze and they don't tell you what the thing is. So, yeah. Yeah. No regrets over here for getting all that development.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right? And it's for us in reality, right? Like at the end, being with any conversation, I believe is for us, right? Yes, does it contribute to your environment? Yes, are you able to create family memories and trips and moments, right? Like they support us in those courses to really go out into the world and create these things with the people in our environment, right? Do they benefit from this work? Absolutely.
For sure.
And I believe that the one who benefits most because of the peace and the completion and the whole perfect and completeness that you get is the self. It's the one.
Yeah.
Right? Like with this podcast, one of the things that I always like to say is like, this podcast is for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because everything I've already been able to get from you, right? From the moment I invited you and all the little conversations we had in between and the text messages we sent back and forth and the pre-conversation we had and the setting up the studio and doing the mic check and like, dude, like I'm having such a fucking blast.
Yeah.
Right? That it almost doesn't matter what it does once I put it out into the universe. I already won.
Yeah.
Right? So me doing this for me just happens to create the possibility of it benefiting the human being in front of me. And then the even extra plus of possibly benefiting at least one human being that's not in front of us right now.
Yeah.
Right? And really, that's just a side effect of what I'm doing for me.
And you know what's wild? I have it that all self-expression does that, right? When you're authentically self-expressed, that's what happens. And when you're not, that does not happen. So I don't care if you're an accountant.
Yeah.
If you're an accountant and that's your self-expression, then what you just described, that benefit that everyone around you experiences, that exists, that's present. But if you're an accountant and you hate the drudgery of the numbers and the client and the da-da-da, then like, yeah, it's not going good.
It's not gonna work out.
It's not going to go good. Yeah.
Well, Satarius, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being on this show. As I said, all of the conversations we had prior to, fucking dope, talking about some pretty deep shit, right? And then the conversation we got to have here, which like I said, is just extra, right? Once we put this out into the universe, it does what it does. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? I'm okay with that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for getting curious about me and showing me that I'm kind of everywhere, but in all the right places.
In all the right places. Yeah, absolutely.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And thank you for all of the conversations. It's been such a joy to hear from you and to be with you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. You're a big human being in my life. I know you're up to big things. And speaking of being everywhere and anywhere all at once, if you could share with anybody who's listening, like I would love to get you more audience, right?
Yeah.
Like where can they find you? Do you perform? Do you have like a residence anywhere, right? Like how can people see Satarius and laugh their fucking ass off?
Right? I I've been producing a monthly show at the Haha Cafe in North Hollywood. So if you don't want to go and book the van, or if the van's not popping up near you, please just go to the website and subscribe to the van's website, because then you'll get the newsletters. But Haha Cafe, like I'm there once a month. It's kind of been a little sporadic, but basically like the third week of the month.
Okay, third week of the month. People can find you at the Haha Cafe.
Yeah, North Hollywood.
Okay. And do you post on Instagram?
I
You
do.
Okay, good. So if people
do.
follow you on Instagram, they can
Yeah.
see where you're going to be next, where your pop-up van may be. Like
Yeah.
they can actually get an insight as to where they can find you if they want to see you.
Yeah, follow me at Satarius. Follow me at Pop-Up Comedy Show.
How do you spell Satarius? Because I want to make sure that people, right? Like
That, yes, it's Satarius.
got it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me, and thank your listeners for
Yep,
listening.
yep.
If you're still here.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please follow Satarius. She's such a dope human being. I know when she's already creating content. When she gets into creating more, this shit's going to be funny as hell. Catch her at the Haha Cafe. Follow her van. If this is something that you guys would like to book for your next party or your next event, I'm telling you guys, you will not regret it. It's hilarious. It's dope. It's intimate. It's unique. I've never seen anything like this. So go to popupcomedyshow.com or Pop-Up Comedy Show on Instagram. Follow her journey. And man, whoever knows Satarius already, shoot me your feedback. I'd love to, interact with some of you guys who already know Satarius. And if you guys happen to interact with her newly, also get in contact with me and let me know how that went. Give me the feedback. But definitely follow Satarius.
Mention Josie the barber and get a discount.
There you go.
Boom.
Boom. There you go. So mention Josie the barber or On the Mic with Josie,
Yes.
and you will get a discount on everything. As always, guys, I just want to thank the one and only sponsor that we have for this show, which is the original Clip Joint Barbershop. We have 2 locations, one in the city of Covina, one in the city of San Dimas. The one in the city of San Dimas has 4 rooms in the back that get rented out for content creation, estheticians, tattoo artists, lash techs, things like that. The studio we're in right now is actually in the back of that location, and we have 2 rooms available if anybody would like to inquire about renting one of those out. Make sure to shoot us a DM on Instagram, and we'd love to get you connected. And as always, guys, stay blessed, smile every chance you get. Tune in, and I love y'all. Satarius,
Yes.
pleasure, baby.
Mine.
Thank you so much.
Mine.